Episode 150. What on earth was going to happen when somebody found out that Hagrid had hidden Grop in the forest? And he had promised that he, Ron, and Hermione would continue Hagrid's totally pointless attempts to civilize the giant. How could Hagrid, even with his immense capacity to delude himself that fanged monsters were lovably harmless, fool himself that Grop would ever be fit to mix with humans?
Howdy,
Said Hagrid abruptly, just as Harry and Hermione were struggling through a patch of thick knot grass behind him. He pulled an arrow out of the quiver over his shoulder and fitted it into the crossbow. Harry and Hermione raised their wands. Now that they had stopped walking, they too could hear movements close by.
Oh, blimey,
Said Hagrid quietly.
"I thought we'd told you, Hagrid,"
Said a deep male voice,
"that you are no longer welcome here."
A man's naked torso seemed for an instant to be floating toward them through the dappled green half-light. Then they saw that his waist joined smoothly with a horse's chestnut body. This centaur had a proud, high cheek-boned face and long black hair. Like Hagrid, he was armed. A quiver full of arrows and a long bow were slung over his shoulders.
how are you, Megorian?
Said Hagrid warily. The trees behind the centaur rustled, and 4 or 5 more emerged behind him. Harry recognized the black-bodied and bearded Bane, whom he had met nearly 4 years ago, on the same night he had met Firenze. Bane gave no sign that he had ever seen Harry before.
Sir,
He said, with a nasty inflection in his voice, before turning immediately to Megorian.
we agreed, I think, that what we would do if this human showed his face in the forest again. This human now, am I? Said Hagrid testily, just for stopping all of you committing murder?
"You ought not to have meddled, Hagrid,"
Said Megorian.
"Our ways are not your ways, nor are our laws. Firenze has betrayed and dishonored us."
I don't know how you worked that out, said Hagrid impatiently. He's done nothing except help Albus Dumbledore.
"Firenze has entered into servitude with humans,"
Said a grey centaur with a hard, deeply lined face.
Servitude, said Hagrid scathingly. He's doing Dumbledore a favour is all.
"He is peddling our knowledge and secrets among humans,"
Said Megorian quietly.
"There can be no return from such disgrace."
If you say so, said Hagrid, shrugging. But personally, I think you're making a big mistake. As are you, human, said Bane, coming back into our forest when we warned you. Now you listen to me, said Hagrid angrily. I'll have less of our forest if it's all the same to you. It's not up to you who comes and goes in here.
"No more is it up to you, Hagrid," said Megorian smoothly. "I shall let you pass today because you are accompanied by your young."
They're not his, interrupted Bane contemptuously. Students, Megorian, from up at the school. They have probably already profited from the traitor Firenze's teachings.
Nevertheless, said Megorian calmly, the slaughter of foals is a terrible crime. We do not touch the innocent. Today, Hagrid, you pass. Henceforth, stay away from this place. You forfeited the friendship of the centaurs when you helped the traitor Firenze escape us.
I won't be kept out of the forest by a bunch of mules like you, said Hagrid loudly.
Hagrid, said Hermione in a high-pitched and terrified voice as both Bane and the grey centaur pawed the ground.
Let's go, please, let's go.
Hagrid moved forward, but his crossbow was still raised, and his eyes were still fixed threateningly upon Megorian.
"We know what you are keeping in the forest, Hagrid,"
Megorian called after them, as the centaurs slipped out of sight.
"And our tolerance is waning."
Hagrid turned and gave every appearance of wanting to walk straight back to Megorian again.
"You'll tolerate him as long as he's here. It's as much his forest as yours,"
he yelled, while Harry and Hermione both pushed with all their might against Hagrid's moleskin waistcoat in an effort to keep him moving forward. Still scowling, he looked down. His expression changed to mild surprise at the sight of them both pushing him. He seemed not to have felt it.
"Calm down, you two,"
he said, turning to walk on while they panted along behind him.
"Ruddy old nags, though, eh?"
"Hagrid," said Hermione breathlessly, skirting the patch of nettles they had passed on their way here.
"If the centaurs don't want humans in the forest, it doesn't really look as though Harry and I will be able—" "Ah, you had what they said," said Hagrid dismissively. "They won't hurt kids. Anyway, we can't let ourselves be pushed around by that lot."
"Nice try," Harry murmured to Hermione, who looked crestfallen. At last they rejoined the path, and after another 10 minutes the trees began to thin. They were able to see patches of clear blue sky again, and hear in the distance the definite sounds of cheering and shouting.
"Was that another go?" asked Hagrid.
Pausing in the shelter of the trees as the Quidditch stadium came into view.
"Or do you reckon the match is over?"
"I don't know," said Hermione miserably. Harry saw that she looked much the worse for wear. Her hair was full of bits of twig and leaves, her robes were ripped in several places, and there were numerous scratches on her face and arms. He knew he could look little better.
"I reckon it's over, you know," said Hagrid,
still squinting toward the stadium.
"Look, there's people coming out already. If you two hurry, you'll be able to blend in with the crowd and no one will know you weren't there."
"Good idea," said Harry. "Well, see you later then, Hagrid."
"I don't believe him,"
said Hermione in a very unsteady voice the moment they were out of earshot of Hagrid.
"I don't believe him. I really don't believe him."
"Calm down," said Harry.
"Calm down,"
she said feverishly.
"A giant! A giant in the forest, and we're supposed to give him English lessons. Always assuming, of course, we can get past the herd of murderous centaurs on the way in and out. I don't believe him."
"We haven't got to do anything yet," Harry tried to reassure her in a quiet voice, as they joined a stream of jabbering Hufflepuffs heading back toward the castle. "He's not asking us to do anything unless he gets chucked out, and that might not even happen."
"Oh, come off it, Harry,"
said Hermione angrily, stopping dead in her tracks so that the people behind her had to swerve to avoid her.
"Of course he's going to be chucked out. And to be perfectly honest, after what we've just seen, who can blame Umbridge?"
There was a pause in which Harry glared at her, and her eyes filled slowly with tears. "You didn't mean that," said Harry quietly.
"No, well, all right, I didn't," she said, wiping her eyes angrily. "But why does he have to make life so difficult for himself, for us?"
"I don't know."
"Weasley is our king. Weasley is our king. He didn't let the quaffle in. Weasley is our king."
"Oh, and I wish they'd stop singing that stupid song,"
said Hermione miserably.
"Haven't they gloated enough?"
A great tide of students was moving up the sloping lawns from the pitch.
"Oh, let's get in before we have to meet the Slytherins," said Hermione.
"Weasley can't save anything. He never leaves a single ring. That's why Gryffindors all sing, Weasley is our king."
"Hermione," said Harry slowly. The song was growing louder, but it was issuing not from a crowd of green and silver-clad Slytherins, but from a mass of red and gold moving slowly toward the castle, which was bearing a solitary figure upon its many shoulders.
"Weasley is our king. Weasley is our king. He didn't let the quaffle in. Weasley is our king."
"No,"
said Hermione in a hushed voice. "Yes," said Harry loudly.